Whenever I thought about journaling in the past, I always felt there was a certain aesthetic you needed to have to keep up with the journal. You know, the pretty handwriting, the fancy pens and markers, all in an attempt to make it seem like it's this beautiful time capsule for your thoughts. Because of that, I could never stick with journaling. I tried big journals and small journals, but nothing would help me stick with the practice. I would get unmotivated and let the journal collect dust on my bookshelf. But this past November, I decided to take the practice seriously and just start journaling. I've been journaling for most days since November, and I've realized journaling is not about the pens or the aesthetics. It's simply a way to put your thoughts on paper and make sense of your life. I found that journaling during this time has helped clear my headspace, calm my anxiety, and allowed me to keep track of the things in my life. So I wanted to share with you my 3 takeaways from journaling the past 6 months. Number 1, clear headspace. I love that journaling allows me to clear my headspace and allows me to put my thoughts and ideas immediately down to a piece of paper. There are so many times throughout the day when I'm thinking about YouTube ideas or business ideas and they just flood my brain with them. So having a journal allows me to just quickly write down those ideas into the journal, and that way they are out of my headspace and onto a piece of paper. Then I can choose to act on those ideas immediately or just have them on for future use. And I also don't limit myself just for words when it comes to these ideas. I allow myself to illustrate them or elaborate them through web charts or any type of visual display that I need. And I just don't use my journal just to write down big YouTube ideas or business ideas. I also take the chance to reflect on the day that I had, the week that I had, or the month that I have. I find that it's actually really helpful to write that out because it gives you a nice look back on how you were feeling and what things you needed to do to improve on for your next day. There's also this special feeling that it's hard to describe, but having your thoughts written in an analog form is really special because in a society where everything is digitalized, having your thoughts in an analog form makes it seem like your thoughts are more real. It's a hard feeling to describe, but I know the days when I'm feeling really anxious or I don't know what's going on in my head and I actually take the time to write it out in my journal, there's just something different about that feeling than compared to when you were to write it out on a Google Drive note. It's hard to describe, but anyone that has journaled before can vouch for it. Number 2, calming my anxiety. This hands down has been the best part about journaling for me. Being able to write out exactly how I'm feeling and have these anxious thoughts move away from my body onto a piece of paper has been so liberating and actually really freeing. It's this indescribable feeling when I can literally feel the anxiousness leaving my body as I write down my thoughts on my journal. It was in Jay Shetty's book, 8 Rules of Love, where he talked about the difference between the mind and the intellect. It's really easy for your mind to act out on insecure and bad thoughts immediately, but if you allow your intellect to take the time to settle in, it will allow you to stop acting out on those bad thoughts. And journaling provides that barrier for me. I know when I allow my mind to wander, that's oftentimes when I feel the most anxious and the most nervous. And when those feelings come, I like the fact that I can lean on my journal and write down all those anxious thoughts onto that journal, and it allows me to have a freer and more calm peace of mind. And another great thing about the journal is that it's almost like having a friend to lean on. The journal will never cast any judgment on you, and you can simply vent towards it and write down all your thoughts and feelings, and you won't have to worry about the journal ever saying anything back to you. Hopefully not. But that's another great thing I love about the journal, is that it just allows me to have someone to lean on and vent to if I never have that physical person next to me immediately. So being able to actually go back and read the thoughts and feelings that I had in the past 6 months is really inspiring for me. Oftentimes in the day-to-day, you forget how you are feeling on a specific day or the exact thoughts that you have. But since I have mine written out, it's actually really inspiring to see how much progress I've made on the emotional and mental side of myself. And if I didn't have that journal, I wouldn't have known how much progress I made. It's the same reason why so many people take gym progress pictures each day to track how they're doing, because when you're going to the gym every day and you look at yourself in the mirror, it's hard to see any of the progress that you're making, but those pictures will show you the actual truth. And the journal entries are acting in the same way, where they will show you your actual truth. Number 3, keeping track of my life. This, admittedly, compared to the other 2 points, I have not had too much luck with continuing. But at the start of the new year, I did keep track of a couple of habits that I was following, and it was actually really inspiring to see how much progress I made on the times that I did track it. And when it comes to tasks, as I mentioned earlier in the video, when I have a journal, I tend to have a little bit more meaningful, impactful words, and those words seem to feel a bit more real to me. So when I have any tasks that I need to get done, I will actually take a step back and think about, are these tasks actually getting me closer to my goals? And if they're not, I will remove them. When I have a digital to-do list, I tend to fill those tasks up with a lot of remedial work that won't get me closer to my goals. and the physical journal allows me to only focus on the important things for the day. Plus, if we're being honest, there's just something so satisfying about being able to cross off, X out things on a physical to-do list compared to just clicking a button on an app. Now that I've shared with you a couple of the benefits I've received from journaling, I actually want to share with you a couple tips that can help you start the practice of journaling. Number one, reduce the barrier of entry. I think why so many of us fall off the path of journaling is because of the sheer complexity and scariness of staring at a blank notebook and having to fill it up with ideas. Not to mention that we get caught up if we should bullet journal or use a regular one, what pens or markers we should get, but in reality, when it comes down to it, none of that stuff actually matters. Find a system that works for you and just stick with it. I know for me, I decided to go with the bullet journal method, and I stuck with a couple pens that I thought I wrote really well with. And another thing is that I tried to write daily, and the days when I didn't feel like writing, I kept it at a minimum of 10 minutes to just write. And having that daily practice meant that I actually kept up with the habit. Number two, make it fun. This sounds pretty obvious, but you want to have the act of journaling actually be fun for you. If it's not fun for you, you're not actually going to want to stick with it or want to continue doing it. So for me, that meant actually going with a bullet journal and getting some of those nicer pens and markers to just make the experience a little bit better for me. And as I mentioned before, it's not all about the pens and markers, but if you need to get the fancier stuff just to make yourself more motivated to actually journal, then so be it. You should do it. And another thing is that I didn't keep the journal just for writing. I actually took the time to write out illustrations, maybe make a web chart, and just have a repository for all these things that I can put all my ideas into. And another thing is you could actually have your journal be kind of a pseudo scrapbook as well. So I know for me, I have a couple times where I've actually taken some little knickknacks of events I've gone to and actually taped them into the journal. And I also want to start adding little Polaroid pictures into the journals just to have a visual cue of some of the memories that I have. Doing some of those things is actually really fun for me, and it actually makes me motivated to continue the habit of journaling. And I'll leave with this. I am very thankful that I started the habit of journaling in 2023, or kept up to it for the most part, for the majority of 2023, because seeing the progress I've made when it comes to some of the anxious thoughts I had and my mental state is really inspiring to see. So hopefully this video provides you a bit of a framework on how you can get the habit of journaling started in your own life. And if you are already journaling, I would love to hear some of the things and ideas that you implement into your journal to make it a habit that you stick with. Thank you so much for watching. With love and respect, Yash.